What does it mean to love unconditionally? March 11, 2016. Love is an energy field, a resonance, a frequency, which functions as a carrier wave to deliver all our messages to ourselves, others, and to the planet. Unconditional love is a silent language. We are all familiar with fear as a carrier wave, as well as anger, for when we come into the energy, frequency, and emotion of fear, our hair stands up on the back of our necks, adrenaline rushes through our system, and we become hyper-vigilant to find the source. We feel fear as a shout, because it activates our fight-flight response and puts us on alert. On the other hand, unconditional love is a whisper, a soft cool breeze, a feeling of peace, and a sense of well-being. Everything in our body alerts us to fear, in order to prepare our biological systems for battle, but what prepares us for love? It is understandable why we are afraid of fear, but why are so many of us afraid of love? In fact, why is our reality so filled with fear, whereas love, especially unconditional love, is far too rare? The answer is survival. In our long sojourn through our third-dimensional realities, we have learned that if we do not attend to fear, our lives can be endangered. But who wants to live a life without love? Unfortunately, for many, love is fleeting at best. That is because it is often human, conditional love. Conditional love is filled with fear, anger, sorrow, and judgment. These conditions for love arise from those that feel like they are trapped in the separation and limitation of the third dimension. On the other hand, unconditional love resonates to the frequency of the fifth dimension and beyond. Therefore, unconditional love is beyond the third-dimensional limitations. Unconditional love is a gentle wind on a clear day and a warm breeze. Unconditional love is a resonance of multidimensional frequencies that can adhere to any person, place, situation, or thing, in any dimension in all the cosmos. Unconditional love is the glue that holds all form together. Unconditional love is the healing force of multiverse. Most important, unconditional love is the silent language that can be shared with ourselves, others, and our planet, to create calm, peace, unity, and knowing. Unconditional love can heal any communication and solve any problem. When we love ourselves unconditionally, we are so filled with joy and peace that we can easily love others unconditionally. Furthermore, we can love our planet unconditionally. Remembering that love is a verb, ask yourself, what can I do with unconditional love? Simple. You share it. You share your unconditional love by attaching it to your every thought and emotion. You share your unconditional love by attaching it to our every problem and concern. Then, you can just relax in the glow of unconditional love, and observe how unconditional love heals you, repairs you, and expands your ability to be and create all that you love unconditionally. The rose is a symbol for love. The transition of our love from conditional to unconditional is much like the opening of a rose. For many eons we have placed our love on the outside of the rose. The core of the rose was a mystery to us. Therefore, it became sacred. From the outside of the rose, we prayed to the sacred center. Some of us even thought that this sacred center was deep inside the earth or far above us in the sky. We had not yet remembered that the center was not above or below. The center was within. The center of the rose, the center of ourself, was distant and apart from us, as the world was cruel and distrustful. Therefore, we had to be sure that we protected ourselves from outside forces that we believed were separate. After all, if we were separate from ourselves, then everything else must also be separate. But then, we were lonely. We were isolated. We felt unloved and unloving. Fortunately, this loneliness and need for love drove us to go inside to see what lay within the center of the rose. And so we began the long journey to the center of the rose, the center of ourself. At first, this journey was frightening because we were accustomed to thinking of ourselves as being outside of the rose, outside of ourself. The trek inside seemed long and lonely. If we were separate on the outside of the rose, wouldn't we be more separate on the inside the rose? But, gradually, we discovered that we were not alone inside the rose. we came to realize that an entire world existed there, in fact, many worlds. It was our own special reality. But was it really just ours? Eventually, we became aware that, from the center of the rose, the center of ourself, we could contact the essence of every other rose that ever was, or ever would be. We found that, in the center of the rose, there was no time. In the center of the rose, there was no space. We were not alone. We were not separate. We knew that we were also on the outside of the rose, but we kept ourselves on the inside, where life was safe and love was unconditional. And then it began to happen. There was a great change on the outside of the rose. It occurred slowly at first, and then the change became faster and faster. The petals that had been so soft, yet firm, were beginning to change. They were not as solid anymore, nor were they as separate. The outside petals of the rose were moving away from the core, and pulling the other petals with them. Now, we could not hide as easily within the core of the rose. The outside petals were becoming very unsteady. They were threatening to all fall from the rose and land far, far away from the core, away from the rose, and away from the core of ourselves. We could not stop the petals from falling. And, if we became attached to them, we, too, would fall away from our core. Now everyone had to journey to the center of the rose because the changes outside were happening faster and faster. But we were safe deep within ourselves. We were no longer alone. We were with everyone else who had found their way to the center of their core, the core of their rose. But were we protected from the outside? Could we really hide from what was happening outside of us? All the petals were falling away now, and we were no longer protected from the outside because there was no outside. As each petal fell from our rose, our essence, our self, we began preparing ourselves for the new world that awaited us. In this new world there were no petals, there was no outside, there was no separation. And then, all the petals were gone. We were no longer in the center. We were the center. There was no longer a place to hide, nor was there a reason because there was no separation. There was no outside or above or below or within because there was no measure of distance or space. There was no fearful future or sorrowful past because there was no time. There was no core because there was no exterior. There was only now. There was only here. As we looked around us, we could see that there were still roses that appeared to be independent from us. However, when we placed our attention upon them, they lovingly and willingly opened their core to us, as we did to them. There were no secrets, there was no fear, there was only unity and unconditional love. We were home within the core of our true, interdimensional self. Channeled by Suzanne Lee. SuzanneLeePhD.blogspot.com